All right, now for more reaction to all of tonight's stories, Deputy White House Chief of Staff and Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller. By the way, I've known you and your wife, Katie, for a long time. That was one tough interview she gave me on her podcast that she just launched. Woof, that was, I don't know if you had a chance to see it yet, but it was tough.
Well, I
you
have to
Millers
put up with
are tough.
interrogations like that every single day, Sean. You only had to do it one time.
It was rough. Asking questions that I never answered before. You know, I am tired of the absolute ignorance of some people in the punditry class and the Democratic Party, whoever it happens to be. Oh, Donald Trump did this on behalf of Bibi Netanyahu. Donald Trump does not do anything based on what anybody asks. He's, of all the people I know, he is a man that knows his own mind and his agenda, and he is America first. The second part of this is there are those people that define the Trump doctrine as isolationism. Well, when you take out the ISIS caliphate, Soleimani, Baghdadi, his friends, dropped the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan, 14 bunker busters on Iranian nuclear sites, and put together this incredibly successful mission to date, I don't think that people understand the Trump doctrine is not isolationism. Maybe you can help set them straight, because I'm not too effective, I guess.
The president has made clear that he believes America's awesome military might should be used to protect and defend America's interests, not to surrender the world to our adversaries, to our enemies, to those who would do us harm, not to surrender the world's resources, lanes of commerce, or capacity to keep our citizens safe. No, America first means America will be the greatest, most unquestioned, unmatched power in the world. And it means we will defend American lives. And yes, we will avenge American blood. Iran has waged war against the American people, this regime, for 47 years. They took our embassy hostage. They bombed our Marines in Beirut. They kidnapped, tortured, and murdered the CIA station chief. They have maimed and wounded and attacked thousands of American troops. All of that American blood spilled by this regime. And President Trump for years has said, we will not allow a regime that sheds the blood of our citizens, that menaces our people, that spreads terrorism around the world, that trains proxy armies. We will not allow that regime to have missiles that can reach our troops, that can reach our bases, that someday in the future could reach the American mainland, and certainly will not allow that regime to have nuclear weapons. But what you're seeing right now, Sean, is a military under President Trump's leadership that's not fighting politically correct, that isn't fighting with its hands tied behind its back. One of the reasons I fear, Sean, that some people in this country lost faith in the military and the capacity to use that military to defend us is because we had a woke Pentagon, because we had a military who at the very highest levels, not the warfighters, was forced to fight a less than full fight. What you're seeing now, Sean, is a military that is unleashed in all of its lethal prowess to go out and seek, destroy, and kill the enemy, which is what militaries are for.
Shock and awe on steroids and human growth hormone. And if I hear one more time, I don't know why Donald Trump did this. Listen to your president. The president said, we're doing it for the future. We're doing it so that we don't have to face a great threat from a radicalized, Islamo-fascist regime that calls for death to America. I mean, it's that simple. It's not complicated, but some people have a hard time comprehending it, and it's beginning to slightly annoy me.
Yes, and one more point, Sean, is that he wasn't going to let Iran strike first. He wasn't going to let this regime make the first attack, as he feared and believed they would, on American soldiers and American troops. Wasn't going to happen. He was going to decapitate that regime. So whether you're talking about what we're doing to fight the drug cartels in the Western Hemisphere, if you're talking about the Maduro operation, if you're talking about Midnight Hammer, or Operation Epic Fury. This is a president who's making clear the world's superpower will not shirk from doing what is necessary to protect the quality of life that every American has an absolute right to enjoy. This is a dangerous world. This is a world filled with adversaries. We are led by a man who knows what it takes to keep America prosperous and secure, Sean.
And how can people forget in the last century, over 100 human souls, Mao, China, Stalin, Russia, Hitler, Germany, Mussolini, fascism, Tojo, Japan, Pol Pot, the killing fields. You don't let the threat emerge to the point where they can then hold the world hostage. It's common sense. No forever wars, no boots on the ground, if at all possible. I believe Donald Trump believes that with all his heart, and he practices what he preaches. Stephen Miller, I'm still recovering. Please tell Katie thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.